Hello there, all of you wonderful people of the internet. Today's video, we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff inside. We are gonna be making butter. We're gonna be, I might start processing peaches. I got a bunch of peaches. A friend picked them up for me from a local farm that I'm going to can. And then I know Ryan previously filmed some stuff with getting fencing in. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Hey, Buckbeak. What's up, bud? What's up, bud? How you doing? We got Buckbeak. We've got Lily here, who's the younger one, and her mom, Ginny, and there's Hermione behind her. Hermione and Ginny were our first goats right here. And then Ginny had Lily here, and Mr. Buckbeak is a wether, so he's a fixed goat. Ginny came to us already bred. And so yeah, Lily's getting big. Hermione really hasn't grown a lot since we got her. I don't know why. I'm not concerned about her though, because like you can see, she's got a nice shiny coat. Right now we have our goats with our temporary line here. You guys saw us move that once. We moved them here to the kids' play area to help for them to eat this down. They've actually done a really good job eating it very quickly. There's obviously some areas that are dirt. That's just from like the house build. This area was like ripped up obviously when they came through with all the stuff to build the house. There's a few things I want to talk to you guys about today. One, I want to like show you some of the just process of making some stuff with our raw milk, and then two, I kind of want to talk about the long-term plans and goals and aspirations for this farm.
Here's the challenge we're running into. We got one post we started drilling, digging. We got down about a foot, hit some really heavy rocks. Moved off that by about a foot, same rocks. Moved it another foot, same rocks. So that one's back there laying on the ground. We'll figure out what to do with that later. So the next one we came to here, we've got really good soil. And we've got this big one right here that's about 10 inches. Our auger's 8.5, so this soil is so good we're doing it by hand because we can, and we'll get that one in. So, and good times. All right. Okay, so first off, yeah, I have 3 boxes of Little Caesars in here because this is real life, y'all. Okay, raw milk fridge, Little Caesars in the middle. Proud moment though is that we host a weekly small group for our church, and we play board games. It's like a board game small group, so it's a lot of fun. But we also all bring like a meal and we share a meal. I've been really good at actually like making a full-on dish for that small group, and I've been very proud of myself for that. And like using things from the farm, it's just been really exciting to like see the amount of ingredients build in my dishes, like even just our day-to-day dishes, you know, starting with like really only having veggies in the summer and some fruit in the summer that we could add, to now like all of our dairy products pretty much in all of our dishes, and you know, now the chicken as well. It just like keeps building, and it's really cool to see it compound and see your hard work go from like, okay, this is our first year homesteading, we really only have like a garden and some, you know, there's some vegetables and some fruit on our plates that are from our farm, and now we have our dairy and our meat and veggies and fruit, and like it's really cool to see it build. I had a very busy day yesterday because we had a co-op thing early in the morning, and I was just exhausted. So I was like, I'm just gonna order pizza, because who doesn't love pizza at the end of the day? It turns out I am not a fan of pizza anymore. I don't know if it's because of how clean, I shouldn't stand here with the door open. I don't know if it's because of how clean we've been eating lately. The last couple times we've had pizza, because we kind of had like a weekly thing where we would get pizza from a local place, not like a chain, but like a local smaller pizza place that's in our town. We would get it every week on Fridays, and that's what we do. And just lately I'm not excited about it. I don't really love it, and I don't know if it's just because we're not eating as processed,
or what, but yeah, I got the Little Caesars and I was like, this really isn't great. I had like 2 pieces. But I ended up ordering way too much. So we have basically 3 whole pizzas left, so that's fun. But anyways, I'm coming in here for these. So gray top is cream. And I'm going to make some butter. And here are those peaches. So they're not totally ripe. So this was news to me. I did not know that when you can peaches, you actually want them to be slightly underripe. Not like really underripe, but slightly underripe, because you cook them first, like you blanch them or whatever. And that will soften them up. So if you have like a really ripe peach and then you try to go and can it, you'll end up with like super squishy, mushy peaches that you're canning, and that wouldn't be yummy. So you don't want to do that. So anyways, we're gonna get to that later. I'm not gonna do that right now. Let's talk about how we make butter. I've seen a lot of people say when you make butter, you want it to be at room temperature. No, I don't know why people say that, but anytime I have tried to make it at room temperature, it doesn't turn easily. I make it straight out of the fridge. That is the easiest way I have found. So that's what I do. I do it in my blender, it's my KitchenAid. I use this attachment. This is all my KitchenAid attachment drawer. Very nice. Also, why? Oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. So this cream right here was pulled like a week ago. This cream was just a few days ago. And you can see a difference in the thickness of it. So you can see how like some of it is thinner, some of it is thicker, like that. That's all normal. It's not bad or anything like that. And then we have this one, which was a week ago. This one looks more like sour cream. And that really thick stuff is really the best stuff for butter. The thicker it gets, the less buttermilk, from my experience, that it has. And so I've had some batches that I've made that were like really, really thick, and I had like virtually no buttermilk. And I'm not gonna eat all this butter, obviously, right away, so I'm gonna freeze a majority of it. I had actually just learned recently about the importance of trying to make as much butter as you can in the summertime, and then freezing it to use in the winter, because the cream that you get in the winter that's on mainly like hay and less grass doesn't have near as much nutrients in it as a grass-fed butter does. So it's just better to make all of your butter in the summertime. So I really do love this KitchenAid, but my one annoyance with like the up-down with the professional one, which their non-professional line I believe has an up-down version too. But like this has to come off in order to like take the bowl out. It's easy enough to like get back in, but it is just kind of slightly annoying. We're gonna come in here and grab the most important part of butter making with a mixer, which is a towel. These are my towels that I specifically use for cheese making or butter making. And we are going to take it and we're gonna wrap it around and shove it behind here. This is the most important part. When you are making butter, the beginning part is fine, not a big deal, but as soon as that buttermilk separates from the butter, you will have a huge mess if you don't cover it. All right, we got it all covered. So we're gonna take this up from 0 to 10 relatively quickly. Like I'm not gonna go slow. I'm gonna start there and then I'm gonna go there. Up it again, and up it again, up it again. Okay, so that's as high as it goes. I will try and stop it to show you guys. Normally I don't. You will hear a very significant change in sound when the butter separates from the buttermilk. And that's all I listen for. Like I can go do other stuff, clean these or whatever, and just listen for that. This is the same process as making whipping cream. You put your cream in and you do it until it whips and it has those stiff peaks. And obviously in the beginning you would add your sugar and your vanilla. But it's the step after that whipped cream where it separates. See how it looks kind of like whipped cream right now? Starting to spurt water now and you're going to hear the change. So you can see how it's shaking more and it's slowed down. And there you go. Okay. And now when we take this off, you can see all the butter. So all of the white stuff is the buttermilk, which you can use in place of just like normal buttermilk. It's not gonna be quite like, what would the word be? Because this is raw milk, it is kind of cultured like a buttermilk would be, more so than if you were, because you can do this from store-bought milk. Like if you buy 2% milk, or I'm not milk, sorry. If you buy cream from the store, you can throw it in a blender and make butter too. But because it's not raw, it doesn't have all of those good bacterias in it. And so you can still use it in place. It's not quite as good as raw milk, buttermilk from butter, but it isn't the same as just like buttermilk that you buy from the store. That is like a cultured thing, like that you have to do a couple more steps if you want it truly like that, but you can just use this in the place of buttermilk. I am not gonna save this buttermilk because I have other things to do this week. So it's just gonna end up sitting in the fridge. These are butter paddles. My friend got them for me and they are a game changer, let me tell ya. So they have these like ridges in them, so when you squish the butter, all of the buttermilk comes out. And you don't want that in there because any liquid that is left, even water or the buttermilk especially, will make your butter go bad faster. So I have a bowl of ice water here. I've seen there are several ways to do this, and this is the least messy way that I have found. I also have a scale here that I will use to weigh my butter after I'm done. So we'll do that after, but I'm gonna use this. Basically this just makes the butter easy to work with because obviously it's butter. As it gets closer to room temperature, it's gonna melt. Your ice will keep it nice and cold. So I've seen people like put it and they just like rinse it through the sink. Our sink does not get cold enough to do that. I just put some ice water in here. I don't squeeze it over this because I don't want to add the buttermilk back into here. I literally just use it to add water to it, and then I bring it over here and I squish it with my butter paddles until I get as much liquid out and all the liquid is clear too. And I still have not gotten the hang of using butter paddles quite yet. It's kind of tricky, but I also have hurt fingers at the moment still from the horse accident I told you guys about. Overall, your hands still get so much less greasy than squeezing this in your hands. I just kind of use my hands to fold it. I've also seen people do this with, you like just put all the butter in a flour sack, like what I use to cover the blender, or not the blender, the mixer. I was calling it a blender this whole time. It's a mixer. And then you kind of like run that through the ice water or whatever. I had a hard time getting all of the buttermilk out with that method because of how much I do at once. I think if you have small portions or if you just want to like add a little bit at a time to it and do it, then that's fine. But I just find that it's easier to work the butter and maneuver it and fold it and make sure like you're really getting all of it out with this versus putting it inside like some kind of cloth to do it. I got a butter bell, so this is so you can keep your butter out on the counter. You put the butter in here and then you put a little bit of water in here and then it can stay out for days. So we're going to use that. I'm going to take the sides and just clean them off here. It's also why I wash my hands really good before. So down in there, there's a line that shows like where to fill it to. So that's what I filled it to. And we're just gonna take this, we're gonna flip it upside down. And basically it like seals it in there. And you just change the water out every couple days. We're gonna use the scale again. And I do these in 4 ounces. And that is because a stick of butter or a half a cup of butter is 4 ounces. So I'm just gonna measure it out to 4. That's a little more than I need. Once again, this is why clean hands are important. And I'm gonna move it over. I will shape them in a little bit. Ooh, 4 exactly. I'm getting better at like knowing roughly what 4 ounces, 4.1, roughly what 4 ounces is when I kind of choose how much to take. This is gonna be way more. Oh yeah, 5.2. We're gonna make these look less fingerprinty. Alright, so they don't need to be perfect. This is what we got. So they'll just sit here for a couple hours until they harden, and then I'll move them over to the bag. A lot of baking is called out by like, you need half a stick of butter, you need a half a cup of butter. Like a lot of it's just around that. And so because when you look at recipes, typically it's called out like that. It's just easiest to store it like that. I know people that even will separate and freeze it by like tablespoons, which is obviously even better for a lot of recipes that just need a tablespoon or two, but it doesn't take long for it to thaw, so it's not a big deal. And then we've got our little butter bell here. If I lift it up, you can see there's some soft butter next to my salt. And now my least favorite part of butter making, which is cleaning up all of the dishes. So this is all I had left that like was over that 4 ounces and is in the butter bell between those two. So just a little tiny bit, and that's it. And oh, I forgot to mention, a lot of people salt their butter. I do not salt my butter. I don't find that it needs salt, and I just add salt to the dishes that would like need salt. So I don't personally salt it. I'm sitting at the piano, and this bench is a little creaky.
Yes, it is. Very creaky.
I never noticed that it was creaky until you need it to be quiet, then you notice.
Well, yeah, most of the time you're playing piano, and so that
kind of covers it up, yeah. Anyways, I told you guys that we were gonna talk a little bit later about like the plans for where we want to go with this farm. You know, when we moved here, we were gonna start a homestead.
We've been blessed with this land, and for the first year, I mean, really until we got into this house, we were just kind of like, ah, we're not really sure what we're gonna do. Like Arianna said,
let's get a horse here and a pet cow here and some pet chickens here.
Yeah, just kind of slowly getting into things, and
part of that was like, we didn't even have the brain capacity necessarily to see where we wanted to go, because we were just trying to live with my parents, Ryan's parents, and like juggle all of us being in a house. Like we weren't at a space at that point to even figure out where we wanted to go. Yeah.
So I mean, now that we've got like house settled and all this other stuff, and we've started intentionally bringing certain animals in. I mean, really, I think Essie was like the first like truly intentional. I mean, we brought in the calves with Delilah. We brought in Delilah with the intention of, okay, whether it be a steer or a heifer, we were gonna grow it out for either milk or meat. And so like that was.
He will not allow her to be meat.
No, I mean, if it came down to it, and like she was not working out the way we want her to as a dairy cow, she would become meat. And
that's the hard part, farming. Like,
it is, and I think it may even be weird for some of you guys to even hear us talking like this now, because we were vegan for 3 years, and we were vegans when we moved to the farm, and we're not anymore. And I mean, there's very intentional reasons for that too, and like Arianna mentioned before, just being out here, being like in tune with nature and with the animals, it's totally different.
And actually being in the farming world,
right?
And knowing other farmers and just learning more and detaching yourself from whatever topic it is, but detaching yourself from like somebody telling you this is what's happening, but they're not actually involved in that world. It's very, very different.
Right.
And it also comes down to, you know, like talking about Delilah, if she doesn't work out as a milk cow, we don't have the land or infrastructure to be able to like keep a cow that is not providing something.
Right.
You know, we want, like we talked about, we want to be good stewards of the land. There's a reason we sent, you know, Calvin to Hearts, which is because more so that I made the agreement when we purchased him that he would not be meat. The person that was selling him did not want him to be sold to be meat, and I agreed to that. If that had not been the case, Calvin probably would have also been sent to freezer camp. And thankfully it worked out, like he could go to Hearts, but Delilah, if we were to rehome her somewhere, she's either going to become someone else's problem milk cow and then end up in the freezer, or someone's gonna buy her and put her in the freezer. And you don't know, like, we love her and we've cared for her. We literally brought her back from death. We would rather know her entire lifespan of, you know, when she came to the farm to when she ends up being able to sustain and feed our family, if that were the case. It's just like, that's the better option for her than like passing her off and not knowing what happens. Like even with Calvin, I don't know, like they could still choose to send Calvin somewhere else and something could happen to him. Like you just don't know.
Yeah, and it is interesting because as we were talking about Calvin leaving the farm, you know, we were having that conversation with Rev, and she totally understood. Like she's like, well, if he goes somewhere else, then why wouldn't they just eat them?
Yeah.
You know, like in this world, there's I don't know how to explain it, but there's decisions that need to be made. There's things that need to happen, whether you make the decision
or
to
you pass it off to someone else to feel better about yourself.
Right.
Like,
it's still happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
and when it comes
really,
to our farm, like we have a strict rule that aggression doesn't stay here. And Calvin, I don't know if we talked about, Calvin did have some like slight aggression issues and like rushing. He actually almost rushed Ren when she decided to walk into a barnyard and she was told not to.
Right. She shouldn't have been there, but at the same vein, the fact that he put his head down and started running at her was not acceptable.
And that's when we decided we needed to send him elsewhere. So, yeah, we have a strict rule with that. So, Calvin was a rarity of like not sending him to freezer camp because we were going to keep our word, and in the end we decided we're not going to do that. We will just send him to Heart since they're willing to take him. So I
like that you call it freezer camp.
That's what people call it.
I've never heard that one.
That's what they call it in the farm world. It's called.
That's funny.
When anyone's like, what do you do with a cow that's getting aggressive, or a chicken, a rooster that's getting aggressive, the answers are always go to freezer camp.
Yeah, so one thing that we didn't mention, we had a rooster. Well, we've had a handful of roosters. We don't know what's going on with the roosters, but our roosters have not been doing good. We've lost a couple of them.
I keep researching like something that only hits roosters, and I can't find anything.
Yeah.
So,
but anyways, one of our roosters was aggressive, Wilder. He was a beautiful rooster. But he was aggressive towards the kids, towards the other chickens, and so we ended up processing him. He's still sitting in the freezer, and every time we pull out chicken to have chicken for dinner, the kids ask if it is Wilder. And when I say no, it's not Wilder, they throw a fit. They want to eat. It is pretty funny, actually.
I mean, like, it's not funny because like we want them to understand.
Right.
We want them to understand that like it's a big deal taking a life, even an animal's life. And like we love and appreciate that like they can help sustain our family. But it is interesting to see how drastic a child's viewpoint can change when they're just introduced to logic.
Right.
And honestly, like what we're saying, if you're like in the deep thicket of veganism, you're not gonna get it. You won't understand it. And I hope one day that like you can understand it. But I know that like with us moving out of that lifestyle, we're gonna have some people that aren't happy with us, and that's okay because like we were once there and we understand. But you know, we want to be, at the end of the day, the whole point of this is like we want to be purposeful about what we're doing, and we don't want to just like half it, you know.
Right.
Insert exclusive.
As of right now, our plans are, one, we're gonna start rotational grazing like we mentioned.
Which we technically have already, just like
just not with the whole exactly. Not you know, with a plan yet. I mean, we have a plan, we just haven't really been able to implement it. But Arianna can throw a picture in here of what a 5-day difference in our pasture makes. The first picture, you can see there's a lot of like really brown spots where the horses were walking. That was when they had access to the entire pasture. So they could
where they want to go.
Exactly. They will choose where they want to go. They're going to eat the same stuff. They're going to keep going for the freshest stuff. At that point, then we cordon them off into one corner, the upper, like up by the barn kind of. And so the next picture is 5 days later, where the pasture has not been walked on for 5 days. plus we also got a decent amount of rain. And so like that difference is incredible. How green it is now versus those brown paths. That's 5 days.
Yeah, which the rain makes a big difference in that, but at the same time, if you were to have all that rain and have the horses continuing to walk that same path, it would just become a muddy mess and not actually grown back like it did.
Yeah. So I mean, just for like my own gratification, seeing what 5 days of this rotational grazing can do, like gives me so much hope and excitement for what we're gonna see in our pastures over the next
years,
next month, next 2 months, next 5 years, as we start to really fine-tune our implementation of rotational grazing. With that, we also are talking about, you know, bringing in some additional dairy cows. Maybe not like in the next month or so, but we're definitely already looking at getting a second one, and we really just want to try and expand a little bit. Still within the property we currently have, but bringing in additional animals to help grow the farm. I mean, like I mentioned, we've been given this blessing of the land that we have, and we can do quite a bit more than we're currently doing with this land as it is. With just intentional management of the land and the animals. And what that opens the door to, again, like I mentioned in the last video, is like, how many more people can we serve in our community by doing this? By offering raw, fresh milk. I mean, the nutrient density in raw milk is like beyond anything you could ever find in stores. Like it's hard to find. So healthy for you.
It's hard to find. So and not only is it hard to find, but it's also hard to find in an affordable manner. And that's something that like where we want to be able to give back is like, obviously we want to make enough money to sustain our farm, but we also don't want to charge so much that it's not accessible to lower income families, because they are a lot of times people that could use it the most because they're stuck with a lot of the cheapest food, which tends to not be healthy for you. And so we want these fresh foods and fresh meats and stuff to be available and be affordable to people. And so like it's figuring out that, and doing the regenerative agriculture, although it takes more time, it actually offsets the cost you have to put into like fertilizer and things like that, and so you actually do save a lot of money. There's just more time involved, like daily moving animals, you know.
A little bit more time, a little bit of cost savings there, but it's also so much healthier for the animals too. Which means the healthier the animals, the healthier the food that you are being provided from those animals. I mean,
even down to just flies, like when you're moving pastures, there's less flies to annoy your animals.
It's just like all around, everything about.
And it's better for the soil as well.
Oh, 100%.
Like overthrowing fertilizer and having
a bunch of chemicals and all that nonsense. I mean, nature has existed since the beginning of time, since God created the world, nature was there. The animals were there. The animals were pooping and peeing
and like, rotating. Like
nature is designed this way, and so really that's what we're trying to do, is break out of the mold of, oh yeah, we just got this one little pasture, we're gonna pack in all our animals in there and just leave them and give them man-made feed and all this other stuff, when everything they need is out there. We just need to, again, steward them and shepherd them into the areas in a, you know, a logical manner, regenerative manner.
Yeah, because if you look at nature, animals typically don't stay in one place forever. Like even the fox across that's in the den, eventually that fox will move out and go somewhere else. They don't stay in the same place. And so when you're trying to farm with animals and you're keeping them on the same land and the same plot forever, of course it's going to start dwindling. Like the soil health is going to start dwindling, because that's not the way God designed animals to work the land.
It's fun. It's been such a big learning curve over the last couple months, just starting to read about rotational grazing, regenerative agriculture, and like all these different things that, you know, even a year ago, we never thought of.
No.
We never even put any ounce of thought into it. And now it's like consuming my mind. Like
it's always randomly coming in. So I was thinking, maybe something else.
I mean, it's just so fun. And like I said, I'm excited to see where things are even 6 months from now. It will be interesting to get into like the first winter where we've implemented some of these and different approaches and whatnot, but
we live in warmer weather, so that plays a little bit to our favor.
Right. But yeah, so that's kind of where our minds are at right now and what our plans are to in the future and, you know, over the coming months and years is be able to provide more milk to more people in the community. Meat. I mean, we do plan on raising beef and pigs and chickens.
The whole point is like, we want to become like legit ranchers because apparently like we would more qualify as a ranch.
Yeah, so a farm versus a ranch. Farm is more like agricultural, like crops in the ground, and ranch is more, you've got animals, you've got a herd or whatever.
Yeah.
So we are ranchers, not farmers.
Yeah, so that's our goal, is to be like full-time ranchers one day and to be able to provide like truly beneficial food for our community. Raw milk, pasture raised, pasture finished meats, you know, pigs that are raised on raw dairy. Like that is the big goal.
Yeah.
And to do it regeneratively.
And who knows, I'd love to get to the point where, you know, we could start doing like shipping and whatnot. And I really want a freeze dryer because you could start to freeze dry some of this stuff and bam, that's good for decades. And very easy to send and all that stuff.
We'll get there. Prioritizing, you know.
Big dreams.
$5,000 on a freeze dryer, $2,000 on another cow, you know. Way. So yeah, but next up is getting another dairy cow, so that we have another cow in milk before we have to dry up Essie, which won't be for like 8 months, but that's like next on our list. We are totally paused on goats. Once we have like a good infrastructure going, if we bring in any more goats, it'll be to help graze down, and I will get Nubians that have milking lines, because I think long term we would move to doing Nubians. And once we have like a good milk parlor situation set up, we already have the goat attachments for our milk machine. We can actually do 2 goats at once. So, you know, long term, but that's like 5 years from now probably, we might add like goats in and start doing raw goat's milk too. But yeah, we're on pause with other animals at the moment.
Yeah. Main focus right now is cows.
Pastures first, and then animals, cows is focus. And we're trying to still like solidify what breed we want to go with.
Right.
But we can get into that in another video and why. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, of course, leave them down below. Maybe we can do a Q&A coming up. But I hope you guys enjoyed making butter with me, watching them set posts for our rotational grazing. You guys did that. And yeah, we'll see you in our next video.
Excellent. Bye guys.